Rooted in tradition, rising with purpose. Welcome to the 2025 East Central University Tribal Summit, Rooted and Rising. Hosted by ECU's NASNTI REACHE program, together we'll explore strategies to support Native American student success from enrollment to graduation. Welcome to the movement.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Perfect. Welcome to the 2025 ECU Tribal Education Summit, Rooted and Rising. My name is Tracy Crossland, and I'm the director of the NASNTI REACHE program here at East Central University. It has been a privilege to help organize this event for the second year in a row. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize the person who has been right alongside me in making this summit happen. Katie Hill, our data specialist. She's back there, give her a wave. She has helped handle every detail, every list, and every update with grace, and I'm so grateful for her partnership and hard work in bringing this summit to life. We're thrilled to have all of you here with us today, and we'll now begin our opening ceremony. To begin our time together, please welcome Amber Page, a proud citizen of the Cherokee Nation, who will open our summit in prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Let's bow our heads. We come together today with thankful hearts, grateful for this new day and for the opportunity to gather in a spirit of learning, community, and hope. We give thanks for the many nations and peoples represented here, for the wisdom of our ancestors whose teachings continue to guide us, and for the young people whose dreams light the path ahead. As we share knowledge, stories, and ideas over the next few days, may we be guided by respect, kindness, and purpose so that all we do honors our communities and strengthens the generations to come. We're grateful for every hand and heart that made this gathering possible. May this summit be a time of renewal, connection, and inspiration for us all. We begin in gratitude. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Amber, for grounding us in gratitude and reflection as we begin our day. Next, we are pleased to welcome Scotlynn Hatton, a proud member of the Chickasaw Nation and the 2025 ECU Homecoming Queen. She will share our land acknowledgement as well as continue the MC duties for the remainder of the summit. Thank you, Scotlynn.
As we come together upon this land to learn, we first want to acknowledge the original inhabitants of these lands and this region. We honor and extend our respect to the Wichita, Caddo, Apache, Comanche, and Kiowa peoples, and their eventual successors, the Chickasaw Nation, who have since made various contributions to the success and development of East Central University and the larger community. ECU exists because of the foresight of community leaders and the generosity of Chickasaw citizen Daniel Hayes. East Central University would like to acknowledge the history of the land and the people that inhabited this place before us. To express our appreciation and gratitude to the peoples that inhabited and cared for these lands before us, and to honor their memory, East Central University acknowledges and respects the diverse historical contributions made by various indigenous groups to these lands. ECU is fully committed to recognizing and supporting the sovereignty of the 39 tribal nations residing in the state of Oklahoma. This land acknowledgement statement is an extension of ECU's mission statement and core values to foster a learning environment that prepares students for life in a rapidly changing and culturally diverse world. As an institution founded upon the generosity of Chickasaw citizen Daniel Hayes, ECU honors and respects the diverse groups of people and their cultures that form our Tiger community.
Thank you, Scotlynn. At this time, we will have the Chickasaw Honor Guard that will be doing our posting of colors. as well as Chickasaw citizen Abby Vossler, and she is also an ECU student. So Abby, if you will join us up here. Please stand. You may be seated. Next to welcome us will be Dr. Jeffrey Gibson. He is the Provost and the Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs here at East Central University.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you all for being here today. We're very excited to be hosting once again this great tribal summit. It began as just a little idea, a dream, and when I came in this morning, I was blown away by the number of people who are already here today to celebrate with us again this year, and something we definitely plan to continue every year from here on out. And with your support, and with your generosity, with your time, and what you give to this project and to this university and this community, we can keep this going for many years to come. So I really do want to thank our NASNTI team, Tracy and Katie in particular. I want to thank all of the members of our faculty and staff who are supporting this event today, those who are speaking today, but also those who are attending with us today. And of course, I want to thank all of those of you who have traveled to be with us here to celebrate today and tomorrow this great event. We are proud to be hosting you here at the Tribal Summit, and we are proud to be a university that supports the rights and the culture and the future of our Native citizens, students, family, friends alike. So on behalf of East Central University and on behalf of President Wendell Godwin, I welcome you here today, and I hope you have a fantastic summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson, for your inspiring words and your continued leadership in strengthening partnerships that support Native education and community. This concludes our opening ceremony. We'll take a short break, so please visit our vendors. We have so many wonderful vendors here today and tomorrow, and enjoy a snack and then join us back here at 10 a.m. when we will have our first keynote speaker, Dr. Amanda Tachine. Thank you.
Okay, to introduce our first keynote speaker, please welcome Dr. Christine Pappas.
Thank you and good morning. It is my great honor this morning to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Amanda R. Tachine, who I met this morning. Dr. Tachine is Navajo from Ganado, Arizona. She is Zuni red running into water, born for many goats. Dr. Tachine serves as an assistant professor of educational studies at University of Oregon, where her research explores how systemic and structural histories
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again later.
We know the feeling. Systemic and structural histories of settler colonialism continue to shape higher education and how Indigenous students reclaim space, sovereignty, and belonging within those systems. She is the author of the award-winning book, Native Presence and Sovereignty in College, and co-editor of Weaving and Otherwise, in Relations Methodological Practice. Her scholarship has been published in leading journals, including the Journal of Higher Education, Qualitative Inquiry, and the International Journal of Qualitative Studies in Education. Her powerful voice also reaches beyond academia. She has written thought pieces for Teen Vogue, The Hill, Al Jazeera, Indian Country Today, Inside Higher Ed, and the Navajo Times, advancing ideas about equity, education, and Indigenous visibility. And in true storyteller fashion, her work has even appeared in Marvel and Grist. Dr. Tachine's work reminds us that Native presence in higher education is not only vital, it is an act of sovereignty, resistance, and hope. Please join me in welcoming our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Amanda R. Tachine.
All right, Siri. Is this connected? I was working. Awesome. Good morning, Yat. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. It's just really wonderful to be here. I just want to say a hat to Tracy and for the team for pulling this all together. And I just want to give some love to the vendors also. I just know that so much hard work goes into all of the creations that you're making and the funds that you're creating for your family and community and for yourselves. And so I encourage y'all to check it out, especially the Spam shampoo over here. I had a really good love. And, you know, I want to just begin with a story because I'm sharing the vendors because my grandma, she had journeyed on, but she was a crafter. She made quilts and she crocheted. And I remember when I was probably 4 years old, my mom was a single parent mom, and so she would drop me off at my grandparents' house and while she went to work. And my grandma would ask me to help her out with cutting the material as she lays it down on the floor. And I didn't realize probably her eyes were tired because she would ask me to put the needle through the thread. And now I understand I'm going like this with my own needles through my thread. So she would ask me to do that, and then I made my first crochet square, probably when I was 4 years old. And just recently, I moved to Oregon, and in the moving process, I found a bag of her materials in a plastic bag, and it had her knitting needles and her yarn. And so I went in through her bag and I organized it, and I was just looking at these all labels of yarn companies and just looking at her needles. And then I returned to knitting also. And I was just thinking about her. And so we were sharing that story about how we're carrying on the traditions of our mom and our grandmothers, and how you all are also doing that as well. So thank you for bringing your stories into what you create. So I encourage you all to go out there because there's a connection. I'm sure there's a story too, to hear why they do this art, and then who you're gonna gift it to. Who are you gonna give this Spam shampoo to? I didn't mean to share that story, but it just kind of came to me today, and I just wanted to gift it to you all as well. She mera Tachine in the share, nanish eja Tachine in the shlunk as a sana bashing, Traba da she ado ashia da shanella, look auntie da nasha, kotego ed zan in the shle. I just really want to again say how happy I am cruising here last night. Made me think about cruising Navajo lands. There's many places that reminded me of the homestead here too. Just like the Dollar General stores. I was like, hey, we got that over there. And just like the old high school, man, I'm having all these memories of being home. And so this is my first time to this side of your homeland. So thank you so much. It just feels really good. I've been texting my husband and my family of the connection of being here. And so I just want to I'm overjoyed. I'm bringing in with happiness to be here with you today. And I'm also happy because I'm going to talk with you about dreams. I think dreaming is really critical, especially now when we think about Indigenous futures. And I also want to begin with dreams because I don't think we dream enough. You know, I think we're really, really good, especially right now, to talk about the struggles. Because it's real. We're living it. We're living with all the struggles. I was just talking to my new friend here about what's happening in our lives, what we're fighting for. We're doing it. But we're not saving time in our heart to dream of possibilities. And I just want to remember that the stories that I come from, and I think this is something similar to many tribal communities, is the morning dawn. In Navajo, we say, Yat e bene, it means good morning, and our teachings about going to the sunrise before the sun opens up, and that morning dedication and discipline to get up, put your shoes on, and go outside is hard. But I was always taught, when you do that, that's your time of prayer. That's the time to the holy ones and the holy people, Creator, D, and God, about what you hope and what's laying in heavy on your heart in that morning. So the teachings for us is like you do that before the sun rises, because that's when the holy people are out and they're listening. And so in that process of praying is dreaming. Because as you think about it in our prayers, and I want to say thank you for the prayer today that started us off, there's dreams in that. We know our ancestors prayed for us. They were dreaming for us to be here today. I just got chills thinking about that. So we need to think about then the dreamings that's wrapped up into our teachings and how we need to assert that, and not only in ourselves, but in our programs, in our departments, in our organizations, within our community, because we don't dream enough. And y'all, for some of us, we're living a nightmare right now, but we're living someone's dream. And so if they're dreaming this up with all of the policies that we're getting hit hard with now, what do we need a dream for tomorrow? Because we can just dream. We're here today because of those dreams. So I want to start with a visioning with you all. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable and start catching up with your breath. So take note of your breath coming in and out of your body. So breathe in and breathe out. And imagine that with each breath coming in, that you are breathing healing energy of life. And with each breath that you breathe out, you're breathing out something that does not serve you right now. And there's no judgment on what that is. So breathing healing energy of life, and breathing out what does not serve you right now. Take a deep breath in of life. Exhale what does not serve you. Do a few rounds to just really catch with your breath. And maybe you're like me, you're holding some tension in your body. Maybe it's in your shoulders, your hip, your jaw. Allow that just to smooth over right now, to relax. Breathe in and breathe out. Let your body just respond to your breath. Now I'm going to ask you to imagine that we are going to go on a trip together. And we're going to go on a trip into the future. I'm not telling you a year because there's no years on where we're going. We are just going into the future. And some of you are like getting excited. We're going to go into this time machine. So imagine that we are entering into this time machine. And as we're in that room, I make an announcement that we're going into the future where Indigenous people, Indigenous students and youth and community are thriving. And we're going to a place where they're going to college and they're thriving. So you're getting even more excited, some of you. Breathe deep breath in, deep breath out. I said, all right, y'all, we're almost there now. Like, we're there. So be careful as we exit out of the time machine. And we're out of the time machine and we're all walking out, and I say, look around. Scan this environment with your eyes. What do you see? What do you see of Indigenous peoples thriving on college, in a college place? Maybe it's still fuzzy right now, it's okay. Start seeing what becomes clear in this picture. Where are you? What does it look like? Now I want you to take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and turn your senses to your smell. What does it smell like here? Maybe there's fry bread cooking in the distance. Maybe you can smell some coffee brewing. Maybe you're outside by the ocean, there's some smell of the waves or the trees. What does it smell like? And then what do you hear? Turn your ears on a little bit and focus on what are the voices maybe you hear? What are the languages that you hear? Do you hear the wind rustling through the trees? Let's listen to this place. And then I want you to focus on your senses of your taste. What's on your tongue? What do you taste? Maybe you're salivating a little bit now because you can taste that salt on the fry bread or that sugar in that coffee. What does it taste like? And then last but not least, what do you feel? Describe in your mind what your body feels like, and look around to the people and the environment, and what is their energies like? What are they feeling in this place of Indigenous thrivance? So now I'm saying, all right, y'all, take a picture. We're gonna have to go back soon, but take a picture. You take a picture, and I say, put it in your pocket. Put it on your pocket because you can always bring it out and return to this image, this place that you've imagined in the future. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. And I said, okay, we got to go back into the time machine. So we enter into the time machine. And so we're going to return back to 2025 in Oklahoma. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Hey! Before you forget that want you to share with your people at your table about what you envisioned for the future. I'm gonna play some music. When my music is off, that's a signal that we come back, that I'll come back. So I'm gonna give you time to talk with your crew, play some music, that's your indication when it's off, we'll come back, all right? Share with your crew.
What? If I get in the way, just let me know. You see my little claw clip?
Try to not make eye contact because I don't want to put you in a spot. All right. We have some honest holes over here.
My name is Sky Rogers. I'm the director of the OSU Center for Sovereign Nations, and my vision for the future does look similar to what I see on OSU's campus. I look outside and I see them playing stickball. I look at the whiteboards inside and see them picking a word and sharing it in different tribal languages on the whiteboards. I look in the back room and see students beading and teaching others how to bead, making baskets. So it's similar, but I want it bigger. And I want to serve more students. And I want a place where we have a hall of flags for the 39 nations in Oklahoma and a conference center. And anyway, big dreams.
Way to start us off. How many had similar visions of like beadwork and indigenous languages? Like raise your hand, let's show each other some love. Awesome. Let's have another volunteer on this side. Maybe something that you visioned with your crew. I'm going to come to our students over here, our student leaders.
I introduce yourself again. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Scotlynn Hatton. I'm a proud Chickasaw citizen. I also think it's somewhat look like what it is now, especially on our campus, just to embrace who we are, and we also play stickball and we do beating activities. I just think it could be so much more, and we could just embrace so much more. I think language is incredibly important, and I would love to see more of that on our campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I want you to see this manifestation as what we need to do more. And so I encourage you, like on your break time, if you're shy like me, sometimes I'm shy, this is a good starting conversation. I'm helping y'all out. So you can be like, what did you dream for the future? You know, you can use this as a guidepost for you in thinking about it. But what does it mean to dream then? My friend Natalie Diaz is a poet, and she often reminds us by asking the question is, what are the languages that we need right now? One time we were texting each other and we were talking about, we gotta learn our old traditional songs. We gotta learn, because we wanna do that. There's value in learning our old ways that has been lost or that has been silenced. So we were texting like, yeah, we wanna learn our old songs. And then she's like, what about our new songs? What about the songs that we can create right now? Because one of those days, that's going to be an old song. So it's thinking about the futures and what we can do now. Because right now, what you're doing now is going to be the future. And there's nothing wrong with creating new songs. I mean, our people are doing that all the time. On TikTok, on social media, they're creating with their art-making songs. So what do we need to do, even in institutions, to create new languages and new songs for futures? And what are the dreams we need? Because we need some dreams too, y'all, right? We need some dreams, and what do we need to be dreaming? Why do we do certain things over and over and over and over and over again? And our native enrollment hasn't shifted. And our retention rates are continuing to stagnate. But we're doing the same thing over and over again. Like, what dreams do we need to make? What changes do we need to shift in order to move us forward? Robin D.G. Kelly, who's an amazing writer, uses this. I think it's beautiful. Because without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused and rudderless and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. But a process that can and must transform us. Because, I teach in University of Oregon. I used to be faculty at Arizona State University, and back in the day, I was a middle school and high school teacher, and predominantly Native people I'm lucky I get to teach Native people majority of my time. And we're really good about talking about all the things we've been wrong and all the ways we continue to be wrong. And I'm a reminder, it's good to have a critical consciousness, to be aware of the ways the systems continue to break us. But we also have to think about how are we going to build. So I often, when a student, just the other night, a student was talking about something again, and it was going around that conversation about the challenges and being really critical, which I value and I want that. But then I asked her, all right, so what are we going to do about it? What are we going to build? Because we have to learn to also have that part of ourselves in our work. We have to build if we're going to do something or we want change to happen. And Linda Tuiwa-Smith, who's a Maori scholar, she's like our grandma, who has really taught us so much about indigenous ways from a Maori perspective. She says, one of the strategies that indigenous peoples have employed effectively to bind people together politically asks that people imagine a future, that they rise above the present-day situations which are generally depressing, dream a new vision, and set a new vision. Now, I'm not trying to say to like dismiss the challenges. That's not what I'm saying at all, because we can't. It's who we are. But what I'm trying to say is like, how do we open up new visions? How do we imagine a future? What do we need to do to carve out time to dream with each other? To dream with our kids? To dream with our grandma? To dream with our lover? To dream with our students? What do we need to do to have conversations like, what do you desire? I don't know. To have those conversations in what we are seeing ourselves. And what is important to think about in the dreaming is what are the values that are embedded in those dreams. Having your language spoken, having stickball games, having beadwork. What are the values of all of that that we're trying to teach in those? Because it's not just about playing stickball, right? It's not just about beating. We're not just like we're just not like machine just going like this. There's so much embedded in the knowledge of beadwork. And I'm a weaver, and I know there's so much knowledge in the creating a textile, and that the sheep is connected to the land, and that Spider Woman taught us how to weave, and that this eye dazzler textile is from this region, from my mom's region, that this is the water, that this is the rain, that this is the rainbow of the loom, you know? That when I'm sitting with my mother-in-law, she's teaching me, I'm listening about her stories, and about her love, and about the ways she's thinking about the next rug. There's teachings embedded in it. So what values are embedded? And y'all, that's what we have to pass down. And those are the things that are not often taught in these institutions. The embedded values of, for us Navajo, it's kinship, and love, and sovereignty. All of those values that are often not in the competitive environment of get your assignments in and turn it in and let's go. You have to get your degree done. Where it's very competitive. It's all individualized, right? It's all cutthroat in many ways. What gets lost is the values that we want to teach and we need to pass down to the next generation. So I was lucky enough to write a story of 10 Native students in their first year in college. And so the book is called Native Presence and Sovereignty in College. And so a part of my dissertation when and I know we have a new doc over here. Yeah, he just graduated. You just go to his session later today, yeah. And there's another doc, a lot of you who've done this, congratulations, it's hard work, and you know this. And so my dissertation was interviewing 10 and getting the stories of 10 Native college students during their first year in college. Because I wanted to understand the first year is probably one of the hardest years of college, and many of our Native students leave. And I was really troubled with that understanding and knew, like, what do we need to do? What's happening in that first year? And so the book then is divided into two sections because it just didn't, when I was talking with them, just talking about their first year in college wasn't enough. Because they talked about all of their experiences during high school and the challenges that happen even in high school that connect to what's happening in their first year. And in higher ed, sometimes we're really good about like, cutting it off. You're over here now, forget about what happened over here. But we know like there's so much happening in our communities, in our lives, in our young people's lives, that I knew that it was important for me to carry that story forward because it's not so cut and dry for our students and for ourselves. And so in the book, one of the girls, her name's Cecilia, she brought up an old story, a Navajo story about the twin, we have a story called the Twin Warriors. I can't tell the details now because we haven't got our first snow back at home. But what I can tell you is this, that these twin warriors fought monsters that saved our people, and that's why we're here today. So we have a lot of beautiful stories of twin warriors and Spider Woman in that. And what Cecilia was talking about, she was talking about the twin warriors story. And she was saying that she was doing a presentation her senior year in high school with her classmate. and she was talking about, I don't remember the presentation, but she was sure talking, and then at the end of her talk, there was a Navajo elder in the room, and he said, you are like the twin warriors. For you, going to college is like your new journey, but go and come back. We say that a lot, go and come back. So then Cecilia said, I think all of us, our Native students, are like the warriors. We are all trying to do something for our community, to help our people. And the challenge with the Twin Warriors is that they face monsters. And so Cecilia said, there are monsters that are still living right now in colleges. And we have to fight against those monsters. So my book is about what are the monsters that college students are facing and high school students are facing. So the Navajo Nayek is the monster term. And monster isn't even like an accurate, in English, they just deflate our language, right? Nayek actually really means this disruption of Hojon. The Hojon for us, again, is like this idea of philosophy of like peace and harmony and goodness and beauty. And we strive every day to live a life of Hojon. And Nayek are the ones that try to disrupt Hojon. So that's probably the better way than just saying monsters, as things that are disrupting our livelihood to live in harmony in every day. So one of the monsters, there's 4 monsters that I write about in the book. I won't talk about all of them today. You can check it out, read the book, share it. But the one I'll talk about is the invisibility monster. And so the invisibility monster worked in many ways. And so often, this is a true story of a Native student who was in a classroom, and she was in a large class setting like this, and the teacher was saying inaccurate things about Native people, and she had the courage to raise her hand and say, yeah, that's actually not right. And she said, I'm actually Native, and she explained the answer. And this was the response from the teacher. Oh, I thought you were all gone. This was the first year in college. So then we think about why is this happening? And so these are ways that we, as a general public, get knowledge. From the public, 70% of Americans rarely encounter or receive information about Natives. And this is from a national study. In education, so National Indian Education Association, NIEA, did a national study on looking at curriculum in our nation state, and found that 87% of state history standards do not mention Native history after the 1900s. So that's why we're often viewed as historical people in the past. 27 states make no mention of a single Native in their K-12 curriculum. That's more than half, and this was before the current administration. This is before the current executive orders that has slashed curriculum, diversity education initiatives. So I'm sure those numbers are going to go up. So this is an education in K-12, y'all. And media, then, that's another place we get our knowledge, right? Our knowledge is either from the school or from media. And so when we look at media, the percentage of characters in popular films and primetime TV shows who are Native ranges from 0 to 0.4%. Less than 1% of children's cartoons are Native. And any video gamers out there? My son's a gamer. I see some gamers. 0.09% of video game characters are Natives. So this is national data right now. And I know that we've had an increase of Native presence on TV, and a lot of it is because of the Oklahoma Natives. Y'all are motivating, inspiring us. I mean, with Res Dog that came out and other films that have just shared around the nation. Back at home, Res Dogs was like our favorite show, and we would watch it with my family, my husband, my kids, every Wednesday when it would drop on Hulu. It was our family thing. I see some nods, I see some family things. I mean, I don't cook, but Wednesday night I cooked. I cooked up the meal, we had the meal, we ate, we cracked up. And then the last season, season 3, I remember remember, we had a special meal. It was a tearjerker too, right? That last season, that last show, my youngest daughter was like, Mom, what's gonna be our show now? Which really speaks, you turn the TV on. What's our show? When do we often see Native representation in real stories, stories by us, for us? That's what speaks of the invisibility monster that's operating in the lives. And then when we look at children's books, I like to read to our children, and I'm a new grandma now, so I want to buy books with Native characters. This was 2018, but the data doesn't really change a lot. This is the books that were published in 2018, and you can see American Indians to your far left, and it's 1%. And you can't see it, but it says 23 books. 23 books were published that year. And then on your far right, you can see the different demographics. There's more books about animals than there are about Native peoples. Stephanie Freiberg, who's a Tulalip scholar, writes about that this limits our possible selves. Because our young people, I want my baby to dream that they can be an astronaut, that they can be a queen, that they can live in all of these awesome wild stories that are found in children's books. But even children's book limits futures, limits dreaming. Do you see how it limits dreaming is actually happening in the ethos? Our presence isn't there. And then we have this, and those of you who write grants, write reports, write things up, I know Dr. Berry does, we have to justify why we need such and such. And you have to look for data to support your claims, to support your issue. And when you're trying to find data on American Indian Alaskan Natives, it's sure funny when you run upon this. And I'm saying funny to be kind. This is an asterisk. And often what this means is that the research does not include American Indian Alaskan Native because they're statistically insignificant. And that actually says that. We're usually a footnote. I mean, honestly, I'm being too generous. We're lucky if we're a footnote. Often research doesn't even include Natives in their disaggregation. And we're lucky if we're able to get a footnote. But even that is laughable. That means we're not included in research. And when we're not included in that, what happens? Out of sight, out of mind. But we know this, and we know that invisibility has been baked into the history of this nation state. It's coming from boarding schools history, and we know this with the teachings of Pratt, who was lauded as the premier person who started boarding school, when he states that a great general has said that an only good Indian is a dead one. And his famous quote at the last one is, "Kill the Indian in him and save the man," which is similarly to this idea of assimilation, which is erasing us, erasing who we are. So what happens when we're invisibilized and erased? And are we the only ones who are invisibilized and erased? We're not. And we have to remember that. Undocumented students, queer students, and all the other students who are often uncategorized or unmentioned. And can I also just back up? When I say natives, do I also mean native and black? Because our natives are native and black and queer, right? We are such a beautiful community that have found love and have made connections. And oftentimes we think of a Native person in a particular way, and when we do that, we exclude particular Natives. And so when I'm thinking about Natives, I'm thinking about all of the abundancies that Native people represent. But I'm also recognizing that they're also been invisibilized and erased. I'm going to keep moving forward for the sake of time. We'll just watch this video for a little bit. Reclaiming Native Truth produced this film. It talked about invisibility in a really powerful way, and then we'll move forward.
Welcome. dogged them. They get dogged openly because everybody thinks they're dead.
Indians don't talk like that.
These are not all dead, all right?
The idea of invisibility and non-representation is, I think it's a little complicated.
Yes, they fought savagely, for they were a primitive people, and self-preservation is a primitive instinct.
I think the representation isn't so much on Native people, it's how non-Native view natives.
I live in a house, not TP, like a house.
As a Native woman, we're very hypersexualized and romanticized. So I think that affects us in academics to just everyday life. They expect you to fit into this form that they would like, and when you don't, they silence your voice.
When it comes to mainstream media, we have this one narrative of history, but every culture has their narrative of history.
That diminishes our youth self-esteem because they're like, what's the point?
It seems like it's designed to devalue us as Native peoples.
If you never see a Native person portrayed as a human, a normal human, and you never meet one, 2% of the people are Native, every time I see them, they're on TV talking magic talk, then you don't see them as human. It's easier to perform a crime on someone that you think is not human.
If you're always having misconceptions like mirrored back to yourself, then it's harder to get a grasp on your identity, or it tells you that your identity is invalid.
It's tough for me to even really imagine this system sort of valuing other cultures, I guess.
When we see ourselves or our perception of what society thinks of us on TV or the radio or in mascots and whatever the case is, that we automatically feel like we have to be in that slot, like we're automatically seen as that, and so might as well be that.
To add value to our people would be to have people involved as far as designing a society that we all get along in and that we all can share truths about each other instead of propaganda.
The worst that could happen is people would stop hating people for no reason. And if that's all that happens by getting rid of negative stereotypes, that would be great, but there's so much more.
I wonder if we need to get out in the world and actually have human conversations and ask people who don't look like us and don't think like us and don't live near us how they interpret the world.
All right. Well, yeah, I definitely feel like education is important, and I want my children to grow and get great education. Whenever I was able to get out and and learn and read and research on my own, it does make you resentful. It makes you feel like, dang, can I even trust y'all with my kids, or because there's so much left out.
People are ready to hear our stories. People are ready to learn about our cultures.
By using story and injecting Native people into story that humanizes them, that makes them just another person in a story and not stand out because of their nativeness.
Oh, it's really important that we work together for new narratives. We have so many opportunities, and it's really beautiful seeing Indigenous people be seen and heard and uniting with all of us, just telling our stories and sharing through our histories.
Reclaiming Native Truth have some really great resources that I often share with folks to check out. They have a full report that I was sharing about the general public research of, they ask congressional leaders and the general public on their views of Native people, and that's where the public data that I shared, a majority don't know Native people, was mentioned. And so so check them out. They also have some tools that's available for folks to use as resources. So when we know this, and what I often like to remind folks though is that in policies, it manifests in policy making in school settings when invisibility, the monster, comes in. And so these are all stories, real stories, recent stories of different students who have been harmed because of school policies. So we have the kindergarten boy that was sent home the first day of school here in Oklahoma for his hair being too long. And the American Indian movement had to come and get involved. The mom had to show verification of enrollment and explain long hair, of why their child has long hair on the first day of kindergarten. Remember how kindergarten is so special? I mean, I remember like getting the clothes out for the kids and they're all nervous. So can you imagine being turned home the first day of school because your hair is too long? This is a picture of a CF, which is a traditional hair tie for Navajos. And so this happened during Native American Heritage Week in Arizona, where the girls all decided to wrap the hair in a CF, all the team, not Native and non-Natives. All the students wore their hair on, the girls on the team. And when they were running out on the court, the refs stopped and said that we cannot have this game until you take those off, due to safety policies. That's made out of yarn. And then we have, as you know, the students who are constantly fighting to wear regalia everywhere across this nation. I see policies, one year one state is yay, then another year one state is no, and across the country. Students are not allowed to be who they are. And all these moments of schooling are really important times, and those of us who are educators, you just want to get the families into the school. Kindergarten, basketball celebration, Heritage Month, graduation, all moments, right, when our families are coming to schools. And so my question is, how is policies reinforcing invisibility and our students are being harmed by that? So this is K-12, and then let's talk about college. So this is the enrollment of Native students across the years enrolled in college. And I know it's kind of hard to see, I apologize. This column here is the American Indian Alaskan Native college column, and that's the data from 2000 to 2015. So when it gets to the lighter shade, that's 2015. So you can see, like, this is the total. Here's white population, black population, Hispanic has increased, Asian, Pacific Islander, and then you have the Native went to 41 in 2010, and then to 23 in 2015, and then here's 2 or more races. You see that large decrease? And we're across the other numbers, do you see that American Indian Alaska Native is the only population that decreased by half? And here's more recent data, 2010, 2020. And now the arrow is pointing to Native enrollment. Do you see the decrease again? And when you compare it to the other groups, do you see which population has the less students enrolling in college? This has long-term implications for our future, because we are seeing less Native students enrolled into college across the nation. Since 2010, 15, that's like almost 15 years of constant decrease. Almost 46%, American Indian College Fund did the data, and they said it's 46% of decrease in enrollment in the last 15 years. And no one's ringing a bell about this. Now, I wonder, though, about the question of how institutions count Natives. That's a question that's critical, because I've learned that every institution counts Natives differently and then reports it differently. Some Natives are not even counted if they're classified as 2 or more races. So check in with your institution to see how you are counting Native students, and then how you're also then reporting, because this gets reported back to the National Statistics for NCES. So in my book, I talked about the invisibility monster. And then I started to see seeing that this monster, how they also have what I define as hauntings. And I thought about hauntings because they were occurring. And this is the definition that I came up with. They're ongoing, everyday suffering and struggles that function to uphold the inferiority of people. The fact that Native enrollment has been decreasing for the last 15 years and no one's saying anything, haunting. The fact that Native students can't wear a feather on the mortarboard and we're still trying to fight for that, haunting. It's the way that things continue to operate to maintain us in our status quo, to maintain us, keep us in a particular position in this nation state. And so I'm sure we can think of like hauntings, like, oh my gosh, that's what it is, it's a haunting. It continues. And then we have scenarios like this, which is another haunting. Really, you don't look like an Indian, which is a cartoon, but then all of these ways that this young person is thinking of a Native person. But in the book, the students talked about the weapons that they use. Because we have weapons. We have weapons that get us up every day. And that's what's important for us to think about is what is our weapons that we are using, and are we teaching those to our young people and to ourselves? So the way I define weapons in the book is there are these knowledges and ethical engagements. Ethical engagements are like how we treat each other. It's embedded in values and ethics of kinship, of being in relations with each other, not with just people to people, but with the land, with my dog, with the birds that fly, you know, being in relationship with all of our relatives that builds survivance, that just then reawakens the power and the sovereignty of who we are, and of our belonging and of our presence. So these weapons, they're centered and they balance on indigenous knowledge system. What does stickball and beating, what is that? What kind of indigenous knowledge system does that come from? What's embedded, centered in that? And in weapons, it's rooted often in this idea of kinship, of being in relationship with all people, having harmony and beauty. And I like to tell my children it's our superpower. I was real honored and happy to write for Marvel because we're big Marvel fans, our family. My son likes Peter Parker, Spider-Man. I tell him we got Spider-Woman in our stories. And my daughter likes Ironheart. And then my husband likes many characters, and I like Echo, right? And so, but I can watch Marvel because it's like the knowledge system. We're in the 5th world, and they're doing multiverse, and I'm like, we're in the glittering world. They're talking about Spider-Woman, and I'm like, oh, I was Spider-Man, I'm talking about Spider-Woman, right? So that's why I feel like we have an affinity to Marvel. So one time I was talking with my kids, and like, if there was this is before Echo came out, what if there was an indigenous one? What would it be our superpower? And we all got in a debate about this. And it ended up me saying that being in a relationship, being in relations, is our superpower. Because it's not just about relationships, it's about love. It's about life and sacredness and sovereignty. And so the students in this book taught me this when I was writing. I was seeing their wisdom and writing alongside. So I encourage you in your work when you're dreaming of a future, what are the weapons that you are building and equipping our young people and yourselves? Because when we think about the weapons, it opens our capacities to imagine a new and otherwise, an educational otherwise. And I put the rainbow here because rainbow for us is this transport into a world. That's how our twin warriors traveled. So when I see rainbows, I think of, it's so beautiful, I think of our queer families, and I also think about transportation and moving into new worlds. And then I think of the blessings of the water and the rainbow and the blessings even from the Bible about rainbows. I think there's so much wrapped in the teachings of rainbows. When we think about that, how does that make us and move into an education otherwise? So I'm with you all to let's do this. You all are here, and now I'm encouraging you, you're gonna get excited, you're gonna meet with people. Okay, now, well, how are you gonna elevate what you are doing to do the next thing of what you can do to create those futures you're imagining? Here are some resources that I've been a part of. This is through the American Indian College Fund. We wrote, these are the 8 declarations. We wrote it. These 8 declarations that campus environments need in support of Native students. Then I worked with the Institute for Higher Education Policy on the data issue that I talked about. Like, how are institutions collecting data? And so we gave recommendations in the middle of how institutions should think about data. Especially right now, many people don't know, but they're going to change the way our data is collected with the new census. And it's going to have ripple effect on how our students are counted. So that's the new change that's happening right now. And then we give a report on what that looks like. And then last but not least, a group of us, Native and non-Natives, came together to recommend policy recommendations at a federal level of what we need in support of Native students. And so these are all tools for you to use. You probably are already seen, when you read this, you're like, oh, that's what we were talking about. Well, here you go as evidence to back what you're already dreaming about. So we hope that this is a useful tool for you in the work that you're doing, or the grant you're writing, or the programs you're thinking, or maybe even it's an inspiration for you to try something different based upon and this has all been created by Native leaders across the country. So we've been having conversations across the country in education and out of ed on developing these tools. I just want to end with this story of futures again. You know, COVID is still sitting in me of just the difficulties and the heartbreaks we had during COVID. I'm still, it's near and dear to my heart. And I remember when there was a time when we were able to finally go out, but we were all masked up. And so I took my daughters and went to the Heard Museum in Phoenix. And we went there because they were doing an exhibit on weaving textiles. I think it was called the Color Riot. And wow, it was so beautiful to see all of these textiles like in a big room like this. My baby was like 5 at the time. This is Coral, and she was about 15, or no, she was 20 at that time. And they're both learning to weave. We're all learning, and we're all weaving weavers. And so we were looking at these rugs. And then my youngest we were standing at this really big one. I swear it was probably like 12 feet by 9 feet. It was huge on the wall. And we're looking at it. It was beautiful. The colors are yellow, really bright colors. And my daughter was like, wow, Mom, I wonder when that one was made. Where I was like, yeah, I know, it's so cool. And I'm like, it looks like it was made. She was like, it looks like it was made like now. It looks so like art, like future. It looked future. I said, it does. Maybe it's probably a new rug. So then my other daughter went to the nameplate to see the weaver's name and to also see the date. And the weaver's name wasn't mentioned, but it said 1820 something. And we were like, wow, 100 years ago. And then it made me think about that weaver wove something for us in the future to see and admire and do. And so I'm saying this to you right now, that you are creating the future, that our future generations will look to see, wow. And I hope they look at it with awe. Ahiha.
Thank you, Dr. Tachine, for that wonderful message. It's now time for our first set of breakout sessions. So enjoy your sessions, and we'll see you back here for lunch. Just some help so you guys know where you're going. The synergistic rooms 1 and 2, they'll be straight out these doors and down the first hallway.